Today I'm going to talk about what creating safety for the feminine as the masculine actually means. I will use heterosexual language, however masculine and feminine energies are not gender specific. I use heterosexual language for poetic reasons and for simplicity. What does it actually mean to create safety for a woman as a man? And why is this so important? And why are many men finding themselves in toxic relationship dynamics, even though they're trying to create safety for the feminine? I will demystify it. I will make this really practical so that if you are listening as a man, you will learn how to actually make a woman feel safe in the most powerful way. And if you're listening as a woman, you will learn what it actually means when a man creates safety for you and also your unique responsibility in it. Because this is not just about him, it's always two in a relationship. I will start with the common mistakes that men make and misconceptions around creating safety for the feminine, and then I will go get very practical around what creating safety for a woman actually means and the most powerful practice to work with this and to ensure you can always create safety for the feminine. My name is Lorin Kren. My mission is to help you experience deep intimacy for the power of masculine and feminine polarity. Let's dive in. Most men have the wrong understanding of what creating safety for the feminine means. Many men believe that there is a specific formula, there's a specific technique for creating safety for the feminine that will always work, a specific exercise that will always work. For instance, if I do this, then she will always feel safe. However, this is not true. Why? Because creating safety for the feminine changes in each moment depending on what she needs in that particular moment to feel safe. In certain moments, it might be acknowledgement. It might be, I hear you. In other moments, it might be an action and not words. In other times, it might mean taking responsibility. We're going to go deeper into this and going to get very practical. But creating safety for the feminine depends on the context. If you just say the same thing or do the same thing, it might work in 1 out of a million examples, and all the other times it's not going to work. It's going to feel forced. It's going to have the opposite effect. Also, most men get stuck in their head around this concept. So for instance, if I tell a man, well, this is how you make a woman feel safe. Tuck your chin in, shoulders up, spine upright, shoulders back, deep breath, and then she will feel safe. He might stand there then, rigid, focusing on his breath. Okay, I'm gonna make her feel safer and I'm gonna focus on my breath but as you can see already, there's a rigidity that comes with that. That's not going to make her feel safe. It's going to feel forced. That doesn't mean that breath and posture is not important. Breath and posture is extremely important for masculine embodiment, but we need to go into the subtle nuance here. Something really important to understand here is that a man cannot create safety for the feminine if he is perceiving her unsafety or her feeling upset or going through a challenging emotional experience as a problem. This is where it already ends, the ability to create safety. This is what makes it absolutely impossible to create any sense of safety for the feminine. Why? Because the feminine can always feel if you are seeing her state or what she is experiencing as a problem. Because essentially this means that it's not about her, but it is about you. Because at a deeper level, you are not feeling comfortable with her current energetic state. And you then bring solutions or perceive it as a problem in an attempt to get her into a different state so that you feel better about yourself. This is a very, very, very deep one. Brothers, for the brothers listening, we don't create safety for her if we perceive her unsafety as a problem to be solved. Seeing it as a problem, as something to overcome, reveals our own level of insecurity. Imagine for a moment that she can be exactly the way she is, and you don't depend on her to be in your power, to feel expansive, to feel present, to feel strong, to feel grounded. This creates safety naturally. So important for the man listening. She's not a problem to be fixed. Don't look for a solution. There is no problem, and therefore there are no solutions to be found. Another important thing here is you cannot create safety for her if you don't feel safe and secure within yourself. The feminine always responds to the underlying truth of your expression, your deepest intention and source of wherever your actions and speech and your beingness is born from. As a woman listening, you will sense this. He might say all the right things, he might do all the right things, but his energy seems off to you. You realize that the place where this is coming from, you feel this intuitively through your oracle, through your feminine wisdom. You can sense, this doesn't feel genuine to me. This doesn't feel like it's coming from a place of authentic truth. And this doesn't mean that he's bad, because yes, it takes time. It takes practice so that it becomes effortless to create safety and it becomes authentic. This doesn't mean anything bad. It's amazing that a man is trying, but it's just so important that as long as a man is trying, he's trying to create safety, but he's not feeling safe and secure and grounded within his own body, it's ultimately going to fail, because you cannot create an experience for someone where you have not gone yourself. Gonna prove itself to be very challenging and difficult. Now, another important thing is creating safety is not a job. It's not a performance. It is your deepest nature. But first, you have to connect, reclaim, and embody your deepest nature. So it's natural that at the beginning, many men have a resistance towards that, or might see it as a job or performance or whatever it is. Why do I need to do this, right? The thing is, you have to practice it again and again and again, so you step fully into your true nature, and then it becomes effortless. The idea is not that you are thinking about how to create safety for her. The idea is that you are so rooted in your power, in your true nature, in your masculine depth, that this is what you naturally do. So it's not about becoming or doing something which you feel resistance towards and actually don't want to do. It's about connecting with your truth so powerfully that, because this is what you naturally do when you are in your truth. Very, very important. And here we get to something extremely, extremely crucial that is so often overlooked. And that is, you cannot create safety for her if she highly disrespects you, if a woman is projecting her shadow onto you. As what she needs then, as I've mentioned this specifically in the 4 traits of the awakened masculine previous episodes, as what she needs then is your truth, your warriorship, your spine, your strength. Otherwise, you turn into a pleaser with no spine. This is where many men lose themselves. They try to create safety for a woman who is projecting from her shadow, her wounding onto them. We don't create safety for that. Vice versa as well, when a man is projecting his shadow onto you, as a woman listening. You cannot create safety for someone who is projecting their shadow onto you, because that in itself is entirely unsafe and means they have gone completely unconscious in that moment. In these moments, the only thing you can do, and you are forced to do as well, is to set a boundary, to stand powerfully in their truth, so that they receive through the reflection of your truth that they are being in their shadow right now. Otherwise, it turns into a dynamic where their shadow has power over you, and you are just a person who is trying to create something for them, but they are not doing their work and they're not fulfilling their responsibility in the relationship container for you to actually be able to provide that. So important for the men listening, you cannot make a woman feel safe when she's completely projecting her shadow onto you. So very important, even though many women will not admit that to themselves, what they need when they project their shadow onto their man constantly is they need their man to step the fuck up and to not allow that to happen anymore. To make very clear that this is not in accordance with his highest truth. And this then often changes the dynamic entirely and paradoxically makes her feel more safe. Can you see the difference here? Can you see how this all depends on context? A woman who constantly projects her shadow onto the masculine and treats him in a very disrespectful way needs him to step really powerfully up and and show her what his limits are, what his boundaries are, what his powerful truth is. And then if she can take that in, if she's conscious and spiritually mature enough, it's going to make her feel more safe because she knows that he's standing in his truth. But going back to the other example, where, for instance, a woman is feeling unsafe or expressing a concern or that you haven't followed through with a promise or an upset from the way you show up or where you lack integrity, and then you see her as a problem that has to be fixed. And in these moments, it's important to allow her expression to be exactly the way it is. We're going to talk about a specific practice in just a moment, but you can see here it completely depends on the context. In one example, holding space is what is required to create safety for her. In another example, standing powerfully in truth and setting boundaries is what required, what in the long run, if she's spiritually mature enough, creates safety for her. So as we can see already here, this is a dynamic where men lose themselves trying to create safety for a woman who is not taking responsibility for her shadow, for her part in the relationship, for her wounds, which then makes it impossible. And also as a woman listening, if a man projects all his wounds onto you, well, it will become impossible to treat him in a respectful way. If he then demands respect, but he constantly projects his wounds onto you, it makes it impossible because he's not fulfilling his part in the relationship. So now I've really kind of mapped out what are the usual mistakes and misunderstandings of what's happening, right, in regards of creating safety for the feminine. Now let's go into what it actually means to create safety for the feminine. Now, what does it actually mean to create safety for the feminine? Creating safety for the feminine ultimately means holding space as consciousness and allowing her feminine energy to expand so she can express the full spectrum of her divine essence. By the way, when she's projecting her shadow onto you, you can't create safety for her, right? This has nothing to do with this. But allowing her energy to expand so she can express the full spectrum of her divine feminine essence. Let's use this as an example. Imagine that when you are connected with consciousness or embodying consciousness, whatever you want to call it, these are just words in the end. It's all about the embodiment. Then imagine yourself, right? Imagine a canvas, a white canvas. And there are dots in that canvas. And when you are connected with consciousness, then you are embodying the whole canvas, right? And she is the art or the painting that expresses itself on that canvas. You are able to hold space and you're able to hold it all because you are the canvas. You're not going to have an issue if there is a dot here, a dot there, a dot there. But now imagine that you are completely in your head, completely in your wounds. So then essentially you are not aware of your true nature as consciousness. Rather, instead, you are a little dot or a little circle in that big canvas. So now that's where she can fit into her expression. That's all that is allowed for her expression. That's all you can hold space for her expression. And if she expresses herself anywhere else on that canvas, oh no, we can't have that. We need to fix it. Oh, we need to fix it. We need to fix that. You see? This is the practice ultimately. It is to embody your true state as consciousness, where you can allow her energy to expand, where you can allow her femininity to blossom, for her to be exactly as she is. There is no response to you that needs to change it. There is no fixing, there is no solution, there is no problem, there is no nothing. She can express the infinite spectrum of her divine feminine essence. This is ultimately what it means at a spiritual level. And this also explains most men are in their head, in their wounds, operating from that place all the time or most of the time, right? Unless we do really, really deep work consistently. If you are not aware of your true nature as that entire canvas, then at the end of the day, everything is going to be too much for you. This is where the whole dynamic comes in, where the feminine becomes too much for the masculine. You, as a woman listening, you are too much for a man who is operating from his wounds, and his ability to hold space for you is just a little circle in this big white canvas of consciousness that he's not connected to, that he's not aware of. You see, so everything is immediately going to be too much and too much to handle. But when he's embodying that, his true nature as consciousness, then you can just expand and you can express the full spectrum of your feminine energy. And ultimately, what this means now, to get very practical, this means allowing her energy and her expression to be exactly the way it is. She can be exactly the way she is. Huge relief for everyone. It's not a performance, it's not a job, nothing hard, complicated needs to be done. It's the practice of allowing her to be exactly as she is. That's your power. That's when you are the mountain and she is the weather, she is the rain, she is the storm, and you remain the mountain. This is what this metaphor ultimately symbolizes. Now, what does that mean practically? So one way we can practice with this, and I go much deeper and really in depth into this in my Awakened Masculine program. But one way to practice with this is feeling into her heart. Because when you place your awareness into her heart or into her body, then you can receive and feel her feminine energy. Only when you can receive and feel her feminine energy can you then respond from the deeper intelligence within your body. We can also call this from your deepest presence, from your deepest power, whatever you want to call it. And here is the challenge that so many men experience. Most men have a wound around receiving the feminine heart. Not because they don't want to feel the love or have an issue with receiving love from the feminine. Of course, we all men want to receive the beauty of the feminine heart. But receiving her heart often means getting in touch with our own deepest emotions. So if we are avoiding certain things and certain shame and guilt and anger and fear and pain, and we men are masters at avoiding things due to our generational trauma, plus most of us not having had a father who initiated us into embodying our awakened masculine core. But because when we are avoiding certain things and suppressing certain things, then feeling her heart means we cannot feel her heart without simultaneously feeling, our own deepest emotions. And whatever it is at the bottom that we are avoiding, that we are pushing away, that we are drowning out. So then this is where the feminine often gets seen as a threat, because our shadow perceives as a threat, because now we get in touch with shame. But she's just a catalyst, she's the bridge that actually allows us in that moment, in this example, to feel our own deepest pain and emotions that is ours, and for us to take responsibility for, and for us to heal and work through, integrate and process, so that we can show up in our full and most powerful nature with her. A man needs to be able to receive her, to feel her, in order to respond from his deepest presence. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. And this is how you can always create safety for the feminine. Because it's not a performance, not a script, it's not some bullshit. It is you doing the deepest work of feeling into her feminine, feeling into her body, and then responding from a deeper intelligence within you, rather from your mind trying to fix it, trying to find some logical solutions or anything like that. But of course, for that, what is required? Deep, deep, powerful masculine embodiment practices. Deep, deep work. I teach all of this in my Awakened Masculine program. So a specific example from my own relationship with my wife Liliana is she would bring up a specific challenge that she was experiencing at that time, and I would try to give her solutions, completely being not being in touch and connected to my own teachings, right? I'm not perfect. And she would express to me her upset and how unsafe she felt. And I tried to give her solutions, and it created tension and disconnect between us, until I remembered my own teachings and I actually felt into her heart. I felt into her heart, I felt into her body, and I allowed myself to respond from a deeper place. And very quickly, within seconds, I realized that number one, she doesn't want any solutions. And number two, at the moment, this temporary challenge, there weren't any solutions to it. So it's a perfect example. And all she wanted was for me to acknowledge her, not with some fake stuff like saying, oh, I feel you, I'm sorry, blah, blah, whatever just comes through me in order to get the job done of making her feel safe, which comes from the totally wrong place, which comes again from a place of insecurity. But really being attentive, not making a problem out of it, not perceiving an issue with it. And the moment I was attentive and just present with her and just felt into her, without even saying something specifically, but just really receiving her, immediately the energy shifted and she felt safe with me. Of course, also what comes here into place, it's not just that we men want to fix out of insecurity, it's also that we have protective instincts over for our woman. We want to protect her. And sometimes we want to protect her by trying to fix her or trying to find solutions. And this is also one of the areas where it can come from. And this was what was coming up from me. I wanted to like protect her from that. But instead, I was making her feel unsafe with my reaction by trying to solve the problem. All she wanted was for me to be attentive, for me to really listen and to really receive her. And it didn't require any specific words. All it took was 3 seconds. Yes, that is what it took to make her feel safe. 3 seconds. So no one can tell me that this is hard. What is hard is to get to this place of practice and embodiment where you can do this effortlessly. Now, I've given the practice here, one specific practice, feeling into her heart, receiving her, and then responding from a deeper place, which will allow you to always respond from your deepest nature, which will naturally create safety. But what can you do specifically right now as an assignment, so to speak, for the men here in this podcast episode? And then I will also give an assignment for the women listening. So what can you do? The next time, for instance, you notice that she's irritated and upset or feeling unsafe with you, place your awareness into her heart, receive her body, receive her energy, and then allow your deeper presence to respond to her. Because if you are truly dropped in your own body, in your own depth, in your own practice, then you will always know how to instinctively respond. And you need to trust yourself to lead intuitively. And the more you practice this, the better you become at it. And eventually it becomes who you are. And this is the whole idea. At the beginning, it's a practice in order to reconnect with your power. And then it becomes your nature. Because in truth, it is your nature. Again, we're not perfect. So it always will, to some degree, remain a practice, specifically around certain areas where you tend to go unconscious. However, in the majority of the time, it will be your natural state of being. And now for the women, what is a specific practice and assignment I have for you? The assignment I have for you is watching out whether you are requesting him or a man to create safety for you while you are projecting your wounds onto him. Watching out for that and being very mindful of that, because you can't just project your shadow at the same time expect him to create safety for you. So very important. And if you take responsibility for that, if you let him know that, if you let him know that that you're coming from your shadow, that will quite naturally invite his deeper presence and will invite him to feel more into you, depending on his level of consciousness, of course, as well. So really, really becoming acutely aware of where are you coming from your shadow and requesting him to make you feel safe, because you have to meet him. You have to meet him. And the way you meet him is by allowing him to actually create safety for you. And if you're coming completely from your shadow and completely unleashing your shadow onto him, well, then he cannot create safety for you. Another example here, if you are in your shadow, but you're aware of it and you let him know, then you're requesting that from a conscious and loving place. And then, of course, he can create safety for you as much as possible. It's always a two-way street. Few last things I will mention here, and that is, again, for the men listening, this is not a job. This is not an obligation you have. This is not something annoying. Look deep inside your heart. Don't you want her to feel safe? Because notice how incredible it makes you feel when she feels safe with you. Notice what you receive, the love you receive in depth. The feminine becomes your muse, right? I always like to say my wife is my muse. Liliana is my muse. She inspires me to write, to go deeper into my own practice, to create in the world, to create from my deepest depth. Why? Because she feels safe in my presence. And that is when she can fully drop into her feminine essence. And that is what nourishes me like nothing else in this entire universe. Watch how her energy changes when you make her feel safe. The love you feel, the depth you start to feel when you feel that love. Creating safety for the feminine is your deepest nature. Yet first, you have to reconnect with your deepest nature until it becomes effortless. There is no problem, and therefore, there is no solution. Allow her energy to expand, feel into her, receive her, and you will know how to respond. This is the deepest practice. This will require you to face anything that you're avoiding. It will require you to take the deepest path of spiritual warriorship. Now, what do you notice here for the men and women listening? Everyone can see creating safety for the feminine is not a quick fix. It requires deep, deep work, the deepest work. As anything truly profound, any profound spiritual teaching, any profound state of embodiment requires the deepest work. There is never any way around it. And the dance of polarity, the dance of intimacy between the masculine and the feminine always leads to the highest evolution, always points to the deepest work. And this will allow you to gain immense trust in yourself as a leader because you're leading from a deeper place, from your deeper power, truth, presence. And it will allow you to grow spiritually like nothing else. And as a woman, noticing when you're requesting safety while you're totally projecting your shadow and completely unconscious, this will also allow you to grow immensely, to become aware of that and work with your shadow and take responsibility for your shadow. Now, if you want to go deeper into this as a man and create true freedom in your relationship with the feminine and live your mission fully, serve the world fully from your masculine depth, then I invite you to apply for my next 8-week Awaken Masculine program, where I teach in depth how you can create safety, stability, and security in your own body. This program is an initiation into embodying your awakened masculine core. In order to know when our next Awaken Masculine program is happening, or next Awaken Feminine program, or next Couples program, the Polarity program, I invite you to click on the show notes or visit lorinkren.com/newsletter to subscribe to my newsletter. Not only will you be the first to know when our next program is and all the dates and all of that, but you will also receive in-depth, powerful emails every Friday that will allow you to take your intimate life to a higher level. As well, I've got a free gift for you. You can find my free Awakened Masculine ebook in the show notes, or you can visit lorinkren.com and under books, you will find it. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being here, for doing the deepest work. And if you feel inspired by this episode, if this has given you powerful insights, shifts you have noticed, then I invite you to subscribe to the podcast to not miss any other episodes. And I also invite you to share this episode or any other episode that you feel will benefit someone you know. And of course, if you share it on your social media where it reaches even more people, this allows us to create more free content like this to serve you even deeper, and of course create more global impact, global collective change in consciousness all over the world. So again, thank you very much, and you have a really, really great day.